It's a rainy day today. Well, as I had mentioned on the first episode, I'd like to talk today about why we ended up going with the Leaf and why we leased once there was, you know, kind of the idea that we wanted to get an all-electric vehicle. So when that idea came about slowly, as I did a lot of research and my wife and I discussed it, and when it looked like we were pretty certain we wanted to get one. Of course, we looked at a lot of other electric vehicles, and I have to go to Europe for work quite a bit, so I didn't test drive them, but I had the opportunity to at least look at the wider selection in Europe, such as Volkswagen and Renault. A lot of those European brands have all-electric vehicles that are available there, not here. I think Volkswagen is coming to the U.S. if they don't already have one available here. But anyway, I'm digressing here. One of the primary reasons why we turned to the Leaf is because of its longevity. The first model, I believe, was the 2011, which had been around since 2010. Many people have gotten delivery of it, I believe, in 2010. Of course, the Tesla has been around for a long time too, but that's out of our price range. Even though we should do another episode on this, the car's not as expensive as it first looks, at least for some people. But anyway, financially it wasn't going to work for us. Maybe we'll talk about that in another episode. But the other thing about the Nissan is, of course, it's a proven brand, and they built the Leaf from the ground up. It's not based on another Nissan's platform. They completely designed the car as an electric vehicle, so there's nothing that needed to be adapted and compromised. That was a big plus. A lot of other things. They adopted the design feature of having the battery be part of the base chassis. So it's at the bottom of the vehicle. It minimizes encumbering the compartment, that we occupy, and it doesn't really take up any space of the trunk either. Those are all big pluses. And the car had been around for a while. When we started thinking about one in 2014, it had essentially been around for the better part of 4 years. The other positive thing is that with just about every year of the Leaf that came out, there were significant improvements. So they didn't just build an all-electric vehicle from the ground up and then rest on their laurels. They continuously improved their product, and they improved it in ways that made sense. They didn't just change it for the sake of changing it. Range improved, battery size improved, technology in the vehicle improved, information, comfort. They added leather. So a lot of improvements. So those and some other reasons, turned us in the direction of the Leaf. And then I first thought I wanted to buy a used Leaf, and primarily the reason for that is because they were inexpensive. Last year you could get a 2011 through 2013 Leaf for under $17,000. They were available. They were coming off, especially the 2011s and the 2012s, were coming off 2 and 3 year leases, and they had very few miles. They had 20-some thousand miles, maybe 30,000. And the car wears very well. They look very good inside and out for having been around for 2 or 3 years. Drive a lot of rental cars as a result of work. So unfortunately, I've experience with lots of cars that don't wear well, and after 6 months are really, beyond what you would want, something you would want to own. So that was very appealing. Very low cost, relatively low cost of ownership for a relatively new vehicle. But then I started thinking more and more as with regards to why they're so inexpensive, why there's such a drop in resale value, and I came to the conclusion that it was the technological advancement. So the 2011s didn't have things that the 2012s had, and same thing for the 2013s with the 2012s and the 2014s, and up to the 2015 that that we ended up with. So ultimately that turned me off to buying a used one, because I thought, I don't, not necessarily the kind of person that likes to be on the bleeding edge necessarily, but the types of improvements that we were seeing in the vehicles were tremendous and were well worthwhile. Had to take a pause to go pick up my wife, and we got quite a storm. Leasing versus owning kind of came down to the same thing. Just as it didn't make sense to buy a used one and then own old technology, it also didn't make sense to buy a brand new one and then when we finished paying for it, we'd be driving old technology. So we ended up leasing. Now, we're not ideal candidates for a lease. We both work from home, so we don't put a lot of miles on. The least you could get on the lease was 1,000 miles a month, which, let's see, we've owned the car now for approximately less than 4 months, and we, I think, have put on it 2,500 miles. So we're nowhere near going to use all the miles that are allotted to us. Normally I'd say, well, then on trips we'll make up for that, but is probably something I should explain in another video. Although we did take a trip with the car the day after we took delivery of it, it's probably not going to see a lot of trips, and we'll get into the reason for that. But it made sense. We waited. We didn't want, obviously, we wanted to pay as little as possible. And it's starting to rain again. And so we actually went into the dealership. It was December by then. I went into the dealership, and obviously I knew what invoice was on the car. We knew what we wanted to get in the vehicle, basically everything that the vehicle had to offer, that they had to offer in the vehicle in terms of amenities. So anyway, test drove it, really liked it. Told them what we were willing to pay. They said no way. We walked away. Long story short, the salesperson called and texted me a couple of times, and then finally on December 30th, they told us we could come pick up the car on December 31st. They needed to make their numbers for the year, and they were willing to give us the car for what we indicated we would pay for it. So we got the car that we wanted. Actually has a couple more things that we really didn't necessarily have a need for, such as the three-dimensional door sill. Things like these. I'm not sure what they're called in the brochure, but it has something to do with the translucent font. So here it is. We've got a low monthly payment. We're paying under $300 a month, which for us is comfortable. And we have everything. This car at a sticker price of just under $40,000. It's $39 and change. It has all the features that they offer. So that's the explanation on that. It occurred to me that I should probably mention that there is still a government incentive for purchasing these, as well as the vast majority of other all-electric vehicles. At least all-electric. I don't know if the hybrids have the same thing. Um, and for most people, that's $7,500. When you lease the vehicle, it works a little differently. You don't own the vehicle, so you don't have to wait until tax time to receive that credit. Um, that's rolled into what you pay for the vehicle. So essentially, we paid $7,500 less. Actually, paid $7,500 less, and then I think it was another 25 or 3,500 that Nissan was throwing in as an incentive at the time for Nissan Leaf purchases. So that's a considerable savings on the car. That I think the base price on this car is somewhere in the 20,000 range, I think. Um, so something to think about if you're considering it. All right, until next time.